Hey guys, Sandy here again, and got an interesting one for this episode of Sandy's Soundboard. I first want to explain where this is coming from. So, over the weekend, I actually have a member of the family, extended family, and he's actually a very, very popular DJ here in the Southern Ontario area. He does it full time. It's his one and only job, and I'm actually hoping to have him on an episode of Gear Up. I actually think that would be kind of cool, and I actually think guitarists can learn a lot from DJs. But something that he came over, he was helping with something around the house, and we actually started chatting a little bit, and because, similar, the live music thing that I do, playing in bars and pubs and that kind of thing, very similar to the lifestyle of a DJ, right? It's a lot of late nights. It's unusual working hours. Just interesting, right? And we actually started talking about, because we're both family men, and, some of the things that we, some bad parts about it. And I thought that would actually make an interesting video, an interesting thing to talk about, like some of the sacrifices that you have to make in this kind of job as a musician, and some ways to kind of mitigate them. So I came up with a list of 5, and you know what? I'm just talking off the cuff here. If you agree with me, fantastic, let me know. If you disagree with me, let me know. And if there's one I missed, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear from all of you. So anyway, the first one I did want to talk about was actually a sacrifice that you may have to make as a musician, is that you may miss family events. Look, here's the deal. As a musician, you're often playing on Friday nights, you're playing on weekends, there's a lot of evenings, and that's usually the time frame when, that's when you'd hang out with your family. That's when you'd hang out with your friends even too, So I think it can affect your social life, your family life, if you let it. So like what I've done, now full disclosure, like I actually started this YouTube channel. I haven't really made a secret of it. 6 months ago, I had my first kid, and I love the little guy. He's amazing. But for like a year before that too, it was kind of a rough pregnancy for my wife. So I wasn't very comfortable running the roads at 2 a.m. with a pregnant wife at home. So, and since he's been born, anyone who has kids can attest, the first couple months are hell. But, so I've kind of stayed put. That was a sacrifice I made. I kind of stopped the live gigging. I started doing the YouTube stuff. But what I have learned is, in order to mitigate any kind of impacts it can have on your social life, your family life, is when you're with your family, put the phone away, you focus on them. The time that you do have with them, you make it count. Also, you can also try and include them a little bit. Now, it's going to depend, there's been a few bars that I played at that, I looked at my wife and nope, you're not coming to see me. Because, frankly, some of them were a little rough. But, if you have kid-friendly events, if you're performing, maybe at a farmer's market or something, okay? It's great to have your kids in there to see you, and that can kind of mitigate some of the impact it can have on your family and your social life. Number 2, personal use of social media. Now, this one I've actually noticed affects me quite a bit. Now, granted, I'm doing the YouTube thing. I have Twitter, I have Facebook, I have Instagram. Shameless plug. Please hit subscribe. But, when even before I was doing the YouTube stuff, I was mainly using Facebook just to advertise gigs. So I wasn't really using social media for its kind of intended purposes. I wasn't using it for the social aspect. I was using it to promote my music. So that is something that you can kind of end up giving up, that you may have to sacrifice, is that might not be open to you. Plus, to an extent, and I'm not saying I was famous or anything like that, but you do become fairly recognizable. So there is like that public figure part of it too that you also have to keep in mind watching what you say online. Now, for some people, this could be a sacrifice. For some people, it might not be. The truth is, I enjoy the YouTube stuff. I enjoy making these videos, and that's mainly what I use my social media for. So I'm actually okay not, just going on there and chatting with people. It's just not something, I've never really been that kind of guy. But for some people who use it for that purpose, if that's their main way of connecting with people, becoming a musician can negatively affect it because you can't necessarily use it at the same time. Now, or for that purpose. So a way to mitigate this, I think, create separate accounts, okay? If you can create like a separation, plenty of people who do that. There's actually a few YouTubers that I've met and chatted with who, they have a huge online presence, but they actually have a personal Facebook page that they're really selective about who they add to it. So, something to keep in mind. Number 3. As a musician, you could lose some of the magic around going to concerts. This, I think, kind of comes just from being a musician. You start to look at music differently. You're not going necessarily to a show and kind of losing yourself in it. At least I find it very difficult to do that. There's only been a handful of artists that I was actually able to do that with nowadays. Because whenever I'm listening to music, in my mind, I'm constantly analyzing it. I'm looking at it like, oh, what kind of chord progression is that? Ooh, what scale are they using? What key? Oh, that's an interesting mode. It just kind of loses part of that. I actually had my mom, she was an amateur actress in, just local plays, that kind of thing. And she said a couple of times that she couldn't necessarily enjoy really going to the theater anymore because the magic is gone. So my best advice for dealing with this one, I think that is a sacrifice that you kind of have to, that will inevitably come up. But I think a way to mitigate it is to, frankly, just expand your horizons. Look at different musical acts, okay, different plays. Because at the same time, she went and saw, I think it was Lion King on Broadway, and completely blown away. Nothing she'd ever seen before. So that's my best advice for mitigating that one. Expand your horizons. Number 4, losing your passion for music. Now, full disclosure, I actually kind of went through something like this. So I played in bars my entire time when I was in university, and it's how I paid my way through school. And after a while, when it becomes your job, it isn't any fun anymore. When it's constant, when you're constantly hitting the road, when you're constantly going to play shows, dealing with people who, frankly, can be a pain in the neck sometimes. People have had a little too much to drink. You can lose a lot of passion for gigging and for playing music, because a lot of the time you don't even get to play the music that you want. So that is sometimes a sacrifice you might have to make, is that you may lose some passion for it. What I found worked for me was taking a little break from it, okay, figuring out how to turn that off and go maybe a different route. When I was in school, I actually just I started a tutoring job. So that can pay my bills and I can still play guitar and still enjoy it. Seemed like it was a win-win, okay? So first option is to take a break. Now the other option that I always suggest if you start losing the musical passion is to switch it up, all right? Maybe you switch to a different instrument. For me, it was the bass that would provided that outlet. It got me back into it. I had fun with it. So that's another piece of advice, is do something new. Maybe it's a new genre of music. Switch it up. It can help get your passion back. And the 5th sacrifice you may have to make as a musician, your health. So let's start with a lack of sleep, okay? I remember I was working a full-time job and I was still playing out. I would leave work at 4 o'clock and I'd be on the road. I drive 2 hours, I do the gig, I get out of the bar at, midnight, 1 a.m., drive home, get home 2 or 3 in the morning. Then often I had to go back to work again. So, oh, look, I'm back at work. No time for sleep. I might get 4 or 5 hours, and then I'd have a gig that night too. This is the reality. So first, that's the lack of sleep part, okay? Your diet. It can suck, all right? I mean, if you're on the road that much, anyone who has spent any time on the road can attest that eating healthy on the road, good luck. It's really hard, okay? And the other way that it can affect your health is you're surrounded by alcohol, okay? And drugs. Like, I'm sorry, but bars and restaurants, holy crap. I don't know what it is with that industry, but there is a ton of drugs, okay? And the alcohol, I mean, you're playing in bars. That's where people go to drink, all right? So you're constantly surrounded by this. My best advice for maintaining your health as a musician is basically just to make it a priority, all right? Pack some meals. Maybe say no to a gig every now and then. I know that can be easier said than done sometimes, but if it means you can actually catch up on some sleep, not a bad idea, all right? And just avoid drinking. I mean, I don't want to sound like that guy, but like personally, I've actually completely given up alcohol for, oh God, probably about 2 years now. And it was mainly due to my kid. But I have to say, and I wasn't that heavy a drinker to begin with. I really wasn't. Okay. But I gotta say, it made a world of difference. And I also always had a policy that I don't drink when I'm at a show, just because, well, that doesn't necessarily end well. So anyway, I hope you've maybe found this interesting. I'd love to know what other musicians have to say. Let me know about some sacrifices you've had to make for this job, this passion. I think this is something that doesn't necessarily get talked about enough. So yeah, I'd be really curious to hear what some of you have to say about, like I said, what you've had to sacrifice as a musician, some of the things that you've noticed, the bad side, okay? And how you got past it. So once again, this is Sandy's Guitars. I'm Sandy Ridge. Thanks for watching. Please hit the subscribe button. And as I mentioned before, I'm on X, Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, and I'm on Facebook. Sandy's Guitars. Thanks for watching. Take care.